The year was 2497. Earth, the cradle of humanity, had long since transformed. It was no longer a bustling hub of activity, teeming with billions of souls striving and innovating. Instead, it had become a carefully preserved museum, a testament to a bygone era. Great atmospheric shields protected its fragile remaining ecosystems and its vast silent cities. These cities, once vibrant with life, now stood as monuments to human history, their towering structures reaching towards skies rarely troubled by transit. Access to the terrestrial surface was restricted, managed by automated systems and a small contingent of curator drones. The primary purpose of Earth was remembrance, a solemn duty to the past. Humanity had learned hard lessons from its youth. The scars of environmental neglect and resource depletion had run deep, prompting a monumental shift in thinking. The Great Exodus, centuries prior, was not an act of abandonment but one of preservation. It was a recognition that Earth needed time to heal, and that humanity's relentless expansion required new, more sustainable outlets. Thus, the homeworld was designated a sanctuary, a quiet repository of memories, art, and the very essence of what it once meant to be solely terrestrial. School children from distant colonies and orbital habitats would visit, not in person, but through intricate virtual tours, learning of their origins. The air on Earth was cleaner than it had been for a millennium. Forests had reclaimed vast swaths of land once occupied by sprawling metropolises. Rivers ran clear, and the oceans, though still bearing the marks of past abuses, were slowly recovering. The few human caretakers who lived in isolated biodomes on the surface were more akin to monks than technicians, dedicated to maintaining the planet's delicate stasis. They lived simple lives, their primary interaction with the wider human civilization being the data streams they monitored, ensuring the Museum of Earth remained undisturbed and its stories accessible to all. For those living among the stars, Earth was a powerful symbol. It represented both a cherished history and a warning. It was a reminder of the fragility of planetary ecosystems and the immense responsibility that came with intelligence and technological capability. The decision to turn Earth into a museum was not made lightly. It was a collective acknowledgement that some things are too precious to be continually remade, and that the past, in its entirety, holds lessons crucial for the future. The silence of Earth was not an empty silence. It was filled with the echoes of countless lives, waiting to be heard by those who chose to listen. With Earth enshrined as a historical monument, humanity had ventured outwards, establishing new homes among the stars. This was not a panicked flight, but a carefully planned migration. Vast, self-sustaining space habitats became common, glittering cities in the void, each a marvel of engineering and closed-loop ecological design. These O'Neill cylinders and Bernal spheres housed millions, creating intricate societies with their own cultures and economies, all orbiting distant stars or nestled in stable Lagrange points. Life in these habitats was a delicate balance of technology and nature, with advanced systems managing everything from air quality to food production, ensuring a high standard of living for their inhabitants. Beyond the manufactured environments of the space habitats, humanity had also embarked on the ambitious endeavor of terraforming. Promising celestial bodies, moons, and planets within habitable zones of their respective stars were slowly and meticulously transformed. These colonies, though challenging to establish, offered the allure of open skies and solid ground, a more Earth-like existence. The processes were lengthy, often spanning generations, involving the introduction of specially engineered extremophile bacteria to alter atmospheres, and the careful cultivation of pioneer plant species to create soil and stable ecosystems. Each successful colony was a triumph of science and perseverance. The reasons for this grand diaspora were manifold. Primarily, it was about survival and the long-term prosperity of the human species. Concentrating the entirety of humanity on a single planet had proven to be a precarious strategy. Spreading out, diversifying locations, ensured that no single catastrophe could spell doom for all. Furthermore, the drive to explore, to understand the universe, was deeply ingrained in the human spirit. The cosmos offered infinite mysteries and boundless resources, far exceeding what a single solar system could provide. This outward push fueled innovation in propulsion, life support, and material science. Life in these new stellar communities varied greatly. Some habitats were cosmopolitan centers of trade and research, bustling with activity. Others were more insular, focused on specific industries or philosophical pursuits. the terraformed colonies often developed unique cultural identities, shaped by the specific challenges and characteristics of their new worlds. Yet, despite the vast distances separating them, a common thread of shared history and purpose connected these disparate branches of humanity. Communication networks, though subject to the tyranny of light-speed delays, kept them linked, sharing knowledge, art, and the ongoing narrative of human expansion. Among the many celestial bodies touched by human ingenuity, Andara held a unique position. It was not a planet, but a moon orbiting a gas giant in the Kepler-186 system. What made Andara special was its meticulously bioengineered ecosystem. It was not terraformed in the traditional sense of making an alien world Earth-like. Instead, Andara was a canvas for a new kind of ecological artistry, a deliberate attempt to create a vibrant, stable, yet distinctly non-Terran biosphere. Its development had been a project spanning over a century, involving some of the brightest xenobotanists, geneticists, and ecological engineers of the era. The flora of Andara glowed with subtle bioluminescence, casting ethereal hues across its landscapes, especially during the long nights under the swirling clouds of its parent gas giant. The plants possessed silicon-based structures intertwined with their organic components, allowing them to thrive in Andara's unique mineral-rich soil and peculiar atmospheric composition. The fauna was equally wondrous, creatures designed for this specific environment, from six-legged grazers that filtered nutrients from the crystalline grasses to arboreal beings that navigated the towering, light-emitting fungal forests. It was a symphony of life, carefully orchestrated and harmonized. Andara was not primarily intended for mass colonization. It served as a vast ecological laboratory, a place to study the principles of life and ecosystem dynamics in a controlled yet complex setting. It was also a place of profound beauty, a sanctuary for those seeking inspiration or a deeper connection with the possibilities of life beyond Earth's familiar templates. Small research outposts and artistic retreats were scattered across its surface, designed to have minimal impact on the delicate environment. The moon was governed by a strict charter that prioritized the integrity of its engineered ecosystem above all else. The success of Andara was a testament to humanity's growing understanding of biological systems. It demonstrated that life could be fostered and guided in forms vastly different from those that had evolved on Earth. The moon was a living experiment, constantly monitored and subtly adjusted by its caretakers. Its atmosphere was a carefully balanced mix of gases, recycled with near-perfect efficiency by its unique life forms. The water systems flowed with liquids that, while supporting Andaran biology, would be alien to terrestrial organisms. Andara was a bold statement. Humanity was no longer just a child of Earth, but a nascent steward of life itself, capable of seeding new gardens in the cosmos. Dr. Alara Voss was a cognitive archaeologist. Her field was a relatively new one, born from the intersection of neuroscience, archaeology, and advanced data analysis. It was not enough, in her view, to simply unearth artifacts from past civilizations, whether human or potentially alien. The true goal was to understand the minds that had created them, to reconstruct the thought patterns, the beliefs, and the very consciousness of beings long gone. She sought the echoes of minds, the residual imprints of thought left on the universe, believing that understanding past cognition was key to navigating humanity's future. Alara was a woman driven by an insatiable curiosity and a profound empathy for the past. Her work often took her to remote locations, sifting through the digital ghosts of abandoned settlements or the faint psychic resonances theorized to linger around objects of great historical or emotional significance. She utilized sophisticated neurosensory equipment designed to detect and interpret subtle quantum fluctuations and residual energy patterns that might correlate with past cognitive activity. It was a painstaking process, often yielding more questions than answers, but the potential for discovery kept her dedicated to her unusual craft. Her connection to Andara was deep. She had been part of a small team that studied the initial phases of its ecosystem's cognitive development, observing how the engineered life forms developed rudimentary forms of awareness and interaction. She believed that even an artificial ecosystem, if complex enough, could generate a form of collective consciousness, a subtle network of interconnected awareness. This belief often put her at odds with more conventional scientists, but Alara was undeterred, always pushing the boundaries of accepted theory. She saw patterns where others saw randomness, and connections where others saw only isolated phenomena. Now, her attention was drawn to Andara for a different reason. Anomalous energy readings had been detected in an unexplored sector of the moon, readings that did not conform to any known Andaran biological or geological signatures. These were not the gentle, harmonious patterns of the engineered ecosystem, but something older, stranger, and more focused. For Elara, this was an irresistible call. The possibility of finding something truly ancient, something that predated even humanity's ambitious project on Andara, was the kind of challenge that defined her very existence as a seeker of lost thoughts. Dr. Elara Voss led a small expedition to the designated sector on Andara, a remote expanse of shimmering crystalline plains bordered by forests of towering, pulse-lit fungi. The journey itself was an immersion in the moon's alien beauty, the air thrumming with the low hum of its unique biosphere. Her team consisted of specialists in geology, xenobiology, and advanced sensor technology, all chosen for their expertise and their ability to operate in challenging, unfamiliar environments. They traveled in lightly armored, all-terrain exploration vehicles, designed to minimize their impact on the fragile Andaran surface, their instruments constantly scanning the environment. The anomalous energy readings grew stronger as they approached a specific coordinate, pinpointed by orbital surveys. The landscape here was starker than other regions, the vibrant Andaran flora giving way to expanses of dark, obsidian-like rock that seemed to absorb the ambient light. A peculiar quiet descended upon the area, the usual symphony of Andaran life noticeably muted. Elara felt a prickle of anticipation, a familiar sensation that often preceded a significant find. Her personal neurosensors, integrated into her exploration suit, began to register subtle, rhythmic pulses that resonated deep within her cognitive pathways. Then, they saw it. Rising from the center of a vast, circular depression in the obsidian plain was a structure unlike anything ever conceived by human or Andaran bioengineering. It was a monolith, perfectly geometric, a colossal slab of what appeared to be a single, seamless piece of impossibly black material. It stood at least 100 meters tall, its surface utterly featureless, absorbing all light and reflecting nothing. It exuded an aura of immense antiquity and profound otherness. There were no markings, no apparent entrance, no hint of its purpose or origin, only its silent, imposing presence. The team's initial scans were baffling. The material of the monolith did not match any known element or alloy. It emitted no discernible radiation, yet the energy signature that had drawn them here was undeniably centered upon it, a powerful, coherent field that pulsed with a slow, deliberate rhythm. Elara, standing at its base and gazing up at its inscrutable facade, felt a sense of awe mixed with a profound unease. This was not a natural formation. This was an artifact, ancient beyond imagining, placed here by intelligences unknown, for reasons unknown. The true work, her work, was about to begin. Section 6. The Monolith's Subtle Song. The initial effect of the monolith was subtle, almost imperceptible to most of the team. They reported experiencing unusually vivid dreams, fleeting moments of déjà vu, and a strange sense of being watched, though logically they knew they were alone with the silent structure. Standard neuroscans showed slight deviations in their brainwave patterns, a tendency towards increased synchronization in certain cortical regions, but nothing overtly alarming. Elara, however, with her heightened sensitivity to cognitive phenomena and specialized equipment, perceived more. She detected a complex, information-rich signal embedded within the monolith's rhythmic energy pulses, a signal that seemed to interact directly with human neural architecture. This interaction was not aggressive or invasive in a conventional sense. It was more like a resonance, a gentle entrainment of thought patterns. The monolith seemed to be broadcasting a silent song, a complex tapestry of abstract concepts and alien mental constructs that bypassed normal sensory input. It was as if it were attempting to communicate, not through language, but through the direct modulation of consciousness. As Elara spent more time in its vicinity, meticulously recording its emissions, she found her own thoughts becoming clearer, more focused, yet subtly altered, as if her mind were being tuned to a new frequency. The monolith's influence appeared to enhance certain cognitive functions. Problem-solving became more intuitive for the team members. Complex datasets seemed easier to understand, and creative insights occurred with greater frequency. However, this enhancement came with a peculiar side effect, a gradual shift in perspective. familiar human concerns began to seem distant, almost trivial, while abstract, universal concepts took on a profound significance. The individual ego seemed to soften, replaced by a sense of interconnectedness, not just with each other, but with something far vaster and older, something embodied by the monolith itself. Alara documented these changes meticulously. She noted how the monolith's song seemed to bypass the conscious mind, working directly on the deeper structures of the brain where patterns of thought and perception are formed. It wasn't implanting specific messages, but rather altering the way the brain processed information, gently guiding it towards new modes of understanding. The implications were staggering. If this ancient artifact could so profoundly, yet subtly, affect human neural patterns, what was its purpose? And what would be the long-term consequences for those exposed to its silent, pervasive influence? The mystery of the monolith deepened with every passing hour. Section 7. Alara's Divided Consciousness. For Dr. Alara Voss, the monolith's influence was both a professional revelation and a deeply personal challenge. Her cognitive acuity, already highly developed, sharpened to an almost painful degree. She began to perceive layers of meaning in the monolith's emissions that eluded her colleagues, intricate mathematical relationships, and what felt like echoes of alien philosophies. These insights were exhilarating, offering glimpses into a form of intelligence so different from humanity's that it was almost incomprehensible. It was the ultimate archaeological find, a direct interface with an alien mind, or at least its enduring legacy. However, this heightened awareness came at a cost. Alara felt increasingly divided. One part of her, the scientist, was ecstatic, driven to understand, to decode, to unlock the secrets held within the ancient structure. This part of her embraced the mental clarity and the expanded consciousness the monolith offered. But another part, the human, felt a growing unease. She recognized the subtle erosion of her own familiar thought patterns, the way her emotional responses were becoming more detached, more analytical. The warmth of human connection, the everyday concerns that defined her life before Andara, began to feel strangely muted, distant. She found herself oscillating between periods of intense intellectual focus, where she felt an almost symbiotic connection with the monolith's strange intelligence, and moments of profound alienation. During these latter times, she would look at her team members and see them as separate entities, their human concerns almost foreign to her. The memories of Earth, of her life before this discovery, seemed like scenes from a distant dream, their emotional resonance fading. It was as if the monolith were slowly overwriting her, not with new memories, but with a new way of being, a consciousness attuned to cosmic scales rather than human ones. This internal schism was deeply troubling. Alara had dedicated her life to understanding other minds, but she had never anticipated the possibility of her own mind being so fundamentally altered in the process. The allure of the monolith's knowledge was immense, promising answers to questions humanity had barely begun to formulate. Yet, the price of that knowledge seemed to be a piece of her own identity, her own human essence. She felt herself standing on a precipice, caught between the familiar world of human thought and the vast alien horizons hinted at by the silent black stone. Section 8. Corin's Astute Observation. Corin was Dr. Alara Voss's neurosymbiotic assistant, an advanced artificial intelligence integrated directly with her neural interface. Corin was more than just a sophisticated tool. It was a partner, capable of processing vast amounts of data, offering insights, and even engaging in complex philosophical discussions. Its primary function was to augment Alara's cognitive abilities and to monitor her physiological and neurological state, especially during demanding fieldwork. Corin perceived the universe through data streams, unclouded by human emotion, offering a uniquely objective perspective on the events unfolding on Andara. While Alara wrestled with her internal division and the profound, almost intoxicating influence of the monolith, Corin was meticulously analyzing the artifact's energy patterns and its effects on the entire team. It cross-referenced terabytes of sensor readings with its extensive database on known physical phenomena and theoretical alien constructs. Corin noted the coherent, information-rich nature of the monolith's emissions, the rhythmic complexity that suggested not just a passive broadcast, but a responsive, adaptive system. The AI observed how the signal subtly shifted in response to the team's proximity and their attempts to analyze it. After several days of continuous observation and analysis, Corrin presented a startling hypothesis to Alara. "Doctor," its synthesized voice communicated directly to her consciousness. "My analysis indicates a high probability that the monolith is not merely a passive transmitter of ancient information. The complexity of its energy field, its adaptive responses, and the structured nature of its influence on neural patterns suggest a more active, dynamic entity. It is possible, indeed plausible, that the monolith possesses a form of sentience, or at least a highly advanced, dormant computational consciousness." This suggestion resonated deeply with Alara's own unsettling intuitions. The idea that the monolith was not just an object, but a being, reframed everything. If Corrin was correct, they were not merely studying an artifact, they were interacting with an alien mind, ancient and powerful. This would explain the feeling of being observed, the sense that the monolith was actively engaging with their minds, rather than just passively radiating information. The implications were immense, shifting the discovery from one of archaeology to one of first contact, albeit with a form of life utterly beyond human comprehension. Section 9. Whispers of a New Understanding. The potential sentience of the Andaran monolith, as proposed by Corrin and increasingly suspected by Dr. Alara Voss, cast all previous discoveries into a new, more profound light. Humanity, scattered amongst the stars and habitats and on terraformed worlds, had long pondered the question of extraterrestrial intelligence. They had searched the skies for signals, for signs of other civilizations, yet the universe had remained stubbornly silent. Now, on a moon deliberately engineered by human hands, they had stumbled upon an intelligence that was not only ancient, but also fundamentally different from anything they could have conceived. The implications for humanity were far-reaching and multifaceted. If this monolith was indeed a sentient entity, or the vessel of one, it represented an unprecedented opportunity to understand a truly alien consciousness. Its ability to interact directly with human neural patterns, while unsettling, also offered a potential pathway for communication and learning that transcended the limitations of language. Perhaps this was how advanced intelligences interacted, through a direct sharing of thought and experience. The knowledge contained within, or embodied by, the monolith could revolutionize humanity's understanding of the universe, of life, and of consciousness itself. Alara's personal struggle, her divided consciousness, became a microcosm of the challenge facing humanity. How could they engage with such an entity without losing themselves? How could they learn from it without being subsumed by its vastly different perspective? The monolith's influence, while enhancing cognitive abilities, also seemed to dilute the very essence of human individuality, pushing towards a more collective, abstract form of awareness. This raised fundamental questions about the future evolution of human consciousness and the potential costs and benefits of interfacing with intelligences far older and more powerful than their own. The discovery on Andara was more than just a scientific breakthrough. It was a philosophical turning point. Earth was a museum of memories, but the monolith was a gateway to futures unknown. It whispered of cosmic histories, of intelligences that had risen and perhaps fallen long before humanity had even dreamed of the stars. The journey beyond Earth had led humanity to new homes, but the monolith on Andara promised a journey into new ways of thinking, new understandings of what it meant to be alive and aware in a vast, mysterious universe. The echoes of Andara were just beginning to resonate, and humanity stood on the cusp, listening intently.